Hey everybody, um, just looking like it's a work day. I've been out in the garden working, got a little sunburn, been trying to do some stuff around the house and enjoy that. And so I wanted to get on with you today though and talk about a few things. Got my notes here as a reminder. So it's day 14 of my Wholehearted 100. The Wholehearted 100, for those of you that don't know, is a community of people that are coming together to support each other, to learn new tools, to learn practical skills and theories in order to be able to actually change, in order to be able to take those resolutions that we normally make in our lives, but then that fizzle out, like your New Year's resolutions or your commitment to yourself to do this, that, or the other thing. Well, there's reasons why those don't work. And today I want to talk to you about why they don't typically work through the lens of what I'm experiencing right now. So it's about day 14 of my commitment to do a number of things, including the most kind of principal thing that has the largest influence is that I'm waking up at 5 in the morning every day, no matter what. And then I am doing some meditation practices, some cold showers, some breathing practices, some things that I've picked up along the way. But the 5 a.m. part is challenging. But it's not just because of 5 a.m. wake up that I'm feeling what I'm feeling. And this is what is relevant to everybody. In the process of creating new neural grooves, in creating new neural networks, creating new habits, let's talk about a habit. A habit is anything that you've done so many times that it becomes easy and automatic, almost as if you take it for granted. That's what a habit is. So when we're going to create new habits, where we are creatures of habit. You've heard that saying. Well, it's really true. We have evolved so that we would designate a lot of our essential energies. A lot of the things that we have to do on a regular basis, we've relegated to the part of the brain where they're automatic, where we don't have to think about them. And this is meant to free up space for us to think about other things and accomplish other things. And so, but most of what we have in our brain is we have a mechanism that is designed to help us keep things kind of in a status quo, to keep homeostasis, and to become very used to or familiar with the typical stimulus, the typical input and output that we experience on a daily basis. So our lives become very habituated, very kind of monotonous, right? And so a lot of times what we're habituated to, not a lot of times, actually all the time, what we're habituated to we become physiologically actually dependent upon, and it gets linked into the part of our nervous system that is related to our survival, to our pleasure, and to our identity. And so if we're trying to kind of break a habit, which is the same to say, if we're trying to create a new habit, we're obviously trying to break some old ones, because in order to create something new, you have to be making space. You have to you're replacing something old. And we've talked about how it's more useful to think about the new that we're creating than it is to focus on the old that we're trying to get away from. But at the same time, that familiar is going to set off that our body is physiologically, literally addicted to the neurobiological stew that we're used to getting from those old patterns. So say we're used to being anxious a lot. Well, that's a lot of adrenaline. That's heart rate changes. That's blood chemistry. That's organ activity. That's neurological activity. That is blood pressure, that's muscle tension, etc. And we're used to that. That's our homeostasis. That's our set point. And when we go to try to do something different, one, it takes effort. And two, not only does it take effort, but it also kind of trips the alarm switch in our brain that says, whoa, 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 I'm used to the status quo. The status quo is safe. The status quo is familiar. I have organized my body to be able to kind of keep an equilibrium with all those adrenaline chemicals that you're giving me. And this is what I want. I want to keep the familiar. I want to keep the safe. I want to keep the known. I know that I can survive anxiety, even though parts of me maybe don't like it. The survival part of my brain knows I've been there. I've done that. I can survive that. It doesn't know that it can survive happiness, perhaps, or feeling joy and love in the future that we're trying to create for ourselves, the new habits that we're trying to create for ourselves. So it sends off an alarm switch and it tells us dangerous. So that's one thing. So we have this voice that's going inside of us. I'm on day 14 and things have not yet become automatic. I'm still in the early parts of habit formation stage. Remember, we have the wholehearted 100 because we're recognizing that, you know, neuroscience tells us it's about 66 to 120 days, and we're picking right in the middle there. Plus, the whole concept of 100, we're giving it 100%. We're 100% of ourselves and 100% of our passion and 100% of our love to be able to kind of become a new person in 100 days and become the best selves we can be. And I don't know if you've caught on to this yet, those of you that are in the group, but we're going to actually keep octaving. So once one 100 is done, we go to another one. And that's how we keep octaving up in life and become really superstars. And so what we're talking about, so there's this voice in us that's going, don't do it. You could do it tomorrow. Stop it. It's uncomfortable. But there's also literally, and I mean literally, a neurobiological chemical withdrawal from our old selves. And so the effort that it takes, the discipline that it takes as we're creating a habit before it becomes easy and automatic, again, around day 66 through 100, before it becomes easy and automatic, we're actually forging new territory in our brain, we're forging new territory in our body, we're forging new territory in our entire experience, and this is tiring. It's tiring. So I'm going through what I'm experiencing a little bit of like the hangover. It feels like a hangover. I feel tired, a little cranky, a little emotional. This was all really normal, and I'm sharing this with you so that you know that that's actually not a sign that your process is not going well. It's a sign that it's working. It's a sign that you're becoming new. It's growing pains. And the reason why the New Year's resolutions that you make or the diet plans or whatever it is that you make don't work is because we stop at this stage. And we don't know the science that tells us 100 days. Now 100 days might seem really daunting, but let's think about it. 100 days to become a new person so that it's easy and automatic is actually only 100 days. That's amazing. It's just more than 3 months. It's about 3 months. So is it worth it to have 3 months to put something into your system so that it becomes easy and automatic? Is it worth the effort? And so the hangover part is going to take usually about 22 days. The first third of that cycle is going to kind of be like, ugh. You might have an initial honeymoon period because you're excited and you're inspired and you join the group. And that is also great and that's wonderful. And that's like the rocket booster. That's like falling in love, right? You fall in love and you have the honeymoon phase and everything's great. And then you realize that that your partner leaves the toothpaste cap off and farts in their sleep and all these things. So in the honeymoon phase, it's all really easy. But then you realize in the relationship phase, you're like, oh, we got to actually work these things out here. And so that's the same with habit change. So please, I want to encourage you to not see these things as a sign of failure, as a sign that this isn't working, but instead as a sign that this is working and that it's normal to feel a little grumpy, a little bit like a withdrawal feeling, a little bit kind of, a little nauseous, a little headachy, and have a million excuses because that's your old survival part of your brain trying to convince you to go back to being who you were because that's what feels safe to that survival part of the brain. Now, one more cool cue and tip for you is that any habit formation is going to go better when you take advantage of the laws of habit formation, and that is with anything that we want to hardwire, that we want to prime into our nervous system so that it becomes easy and automatic. There's going to be a cue. A cue is like something that you intentionally kind of set up, like a ritual that you set up to remember your habit, to remember that you're going to do something. So you're going to do some new action that is going to be creating new neural networks in your brain. So you have a cue. Then you have the action. You have to do it, right? You have to actually do it. I mean, it sounds obvious, right? But there's been a lot of people spend a lot of time fantasizing, and you have to act. So you have the cue, you have the action. But what is gonna bring it home is when you have a reward and you link these three up. And so one of the things that I like to do is that if I'm already, gonna do something that I think is kind of like a treat in my life, that I enjoy, and it doesn't need to be a big thing. In fact, it can be a really small thing, like a small piece of chocolate or something like that. And so I link that up. And it doesn't even need to be automatic. Immediate. Our brains are smart enough. If we link it up, if we make the intention and we make the ritual to say, my cue, say for me, my cue is the alarm at 5 in the morning. The action is get my ass out of bed. The reward is that I'm going to, have a square of chocolate later in the day. Or I'm going to take a 15-minute nap later in the day, which isn't just relevant for my habit that I'm trying to pick up, which is waking up at 5 in the morning, is actually a good idea. There's not another animal out there in nature that we know of that doesn't take naps, right? And so to be awake for 16, 18 hours and then asleep for 6 to 8 hours is kind of like a unique human thing that is more kind of maybe habitual than it is natural, and more maybe cultural than it is natural. So if you grew up with that cultural conditioning that you're weak and you're lazy, or that it's a waste of time to take a nap, talk to the geniuses of the world that have solved, some of the biggest, and have created some of the most amazing inventions just after waking up from a short 15-minute nap. And so but I link that and I say, well, I'll do that if I do this. And of course, in my wholehearted 100, there's no option for me to not do it, right? None, no excuses. That's how I'm going to get results. Now, you also might want to adjust your goals so that you are on your growing edge and you pick something that you can do with no excuses, and that you're like, I'm absolutely going to do this. It's a challenge. It's certainly a stretch, but it's not so overwhelming that you're setting yourself up for failure. Of course, that's a very wise thing to do. So, because remember, you can always octave up again the next time, the next 100 days, right? And so that's it. We just keep octaving up, octaving up, octaving up. Cue, action, reward. Have a cue. Have it be consistent. Ritualize it. Use to your advantage the brain's power for ritual and automation. You're just making automatic something that you want to be automatic instead of something that you learned habitually through your hurts, through your past, through your pain, through school, through the government, through commercials, whatever it is. You're deciding, I'm going to make this automatic and habitual, so I have to do it for 100 days before it will become so. So I'm going to get a cue. I'm going to do the action. I'm going to give myself a reward, whatever works for you, whatever is a nice little treat that you link up between the cue, action, and the reward, and then you enjoy it and you celebrate it and you savor it. And you savor it. When you're savoring that reward, you're giving yourself all sorts of pleasure chemicals, and whatever your brain associates as the cause for those pleasure chemicals, it will want to do again. So you're using the brain how it works. You're just using it to your advantage. Then, repetition. Cue, action, reward, repetition. Cue, action, reward, repetition. Repetition, 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 with effort, with commitment, with passion, with dedication, with the recognition that you're going to feel like shit along the way, that you're going to feel confused, that you're going to want to quit, that's all normal. That means you are forging new territory in your brain and in your body and in your life. And that is to be expected, not to be feared, not to be seen as a sign of failure or that this isn't working. And you have to keep repeating anyhow. And then you will get to the point, the Shangri-La, where things become more easy, more automatic. And all of a sudden, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. all on my own. I don't even need an alarm. I have tons of energy. I feel great. I don't feel great right now. I have bags under my eyes. I feel tired. But I'm only on day 14, and I'm going to keep going. And the reason why I love this community effort is that together we thrive. I am held accountable by my commitment to you. You are held accountable by your commitment to us. And together we thrive. Love you all. See ya.